The poor girl with big dreams. Dreams are not limited by money. Dreams are limited only by belief. Some children grow up with toys. Some grow up with struggles. But some grow up with dreams that are bigger than anything life can throw at them. This is the story of Anaya, a girl who had nothing. No expensive books. No rich family. No special opportunities. But she had courage. And sometimes, courage is enough to change everything. Let us begin. Anaya's village was small, really small. 3 muddy roads, a tiny school, and endless green fields that danced when the wind passed. Morning began with the sound of birds and the call of farmers walking toward their fields. There were no cars, no malls, no big houses. But there was life, simple and honest. Anaya lived with her parents in a little house, with a cracked door and a tin roof that made loud sounds when it rained. Her father, Raghav, was a farmer. Not the kind of farmer who owned large lands. He worked on a small piece of soil, hoping every year that the rain would be kind. Her mother, Sushma, stitched clothes for villagers. Blouses, school uniforms, old torn shirts that needed repairing. Her sewing machine made a tack-tack-tack sound all day long. They didn't have much money. Sometimes, not enough even for the full month's groceries. But what they always had was love. Every evening, the 3 of them sat outside, under the neem tree, talking about simple things. How the day went. What the teacher taught. Which crop might grow well this year. Anaya listened, smiled, laughed. But her eyes always seemed to look farther. Beyond the fields, beyond the village, beyond everything. Because Anaya had a dream. Not just any dream. She wanted to become a doctor. Not to wear a white coat. Not to earn money. But because she couldn't watch people suffer. She had seen her neighbor's child die. Because they couldn't reach the hospital on time. She had seen her grandmother cry in pain. Because there was no doctor in the village. Her heart didn't let her forget. So every night, when everyone slept, Anaya lit a small weak lamp and opened her old second-hand books. The pages were torn, the ink had faded. But to her, they were windows to another world. She whispered to herself, "One day, I will help people. One day, this village will have a doctor. And that doctor will be me." One evening, her father sat beside her and said, slowly, "Anaya, dreams are expensive." He didn't say it to stop her. He said it with fear. Fear of the world. Fear that life may break her gentle heart. But Anaya smiled, looked at him, and replied, "Baba, dreaming is free." Her father didn't say anything after that. But his eyes softened. With pride. With love. With hope. And with helplessness. Because he wanted to give her the world. But the world was too expensive. The year Anaya entered 9th standard. The sky looked different. Clouds gathered earlier than usual. The air felt heavy. The wind carried a strange smell. Like the beginning of something nobody wanted. And then one night, the rain began. Not gently. Not like the sweet monsoon the village waited for every year. This rain was angry. It fell hard, loud, like the sky was crying out in pain. People first smiled, thinking, "Oh, good, the crops will grow well this year." But the rain did not stop. 1 day passed. 2 days passed. 3 days. The small river became a dangerous flood. The soil softened, broke, and collapsed. The fields, where farmers had put every hope, were drowning. Raghav stood at the edge of his farm, rainwater up to his ankles, watching the crops that were supposed to feed his family wash away like dust. His heart was heavy. His hands shook. But he did not speak. Because sometimes, pain is silent. When the rain finally stopped, there was nothing left to save. The family's savings, gone. The harvest, gone. The hope, shaken. That evening, the house was quiet. Sushma sat near her sewing machine, her hands resting on her lap, her fingers still. Something that rarely happened. Raghav sat on the floor, holding his head. Anaya looked at both of them, her heart beating fast, even before anything was said. Finally, her mother spoke. Her voice was soft, tired, and filled with something heavy. Anaya, we cannot pay your school fees now. The world stopped. The sound of the sewing machine. The birds outside the window. The dripping water from the roof. Everything became distant. Anaya lowered her eyes. Her lips trembled for a second. But she didn't cry. She simply nodded and whispered, "I understand, Ma." But when night came, she lay awake. The stars outside looked so close. But her dreams suddenly felt far. She pressed her hand on her chest, holding the ache inside. Tears filled her eyes. But she didn't let them fall. She spoke to herself in a whisper. "No. I will not stop. If I can't afford light, I'll study in the dark. If I can't afford books, I'll borrow them. If the world says no, I will say yes." The next morning, Anaya began helping her mother. She sat beside the sewing machine, cutting cloth, folding fabric, stitching buttons. Her small fingers learned every movement quickly. Her back hurt. Her eyes burned. But her heart remained steady. Whenever she earned even a small coin, she placed it carefully inside a small steel box, hidden under her bed. Not for sweets. Not for toys. But for notebooks. And exams. And a future that only she could see. At night, when everyone slept, Anaya studied. If there was no electricity, she used a candle. If the candle burned out, she used the dim, cracked phone screen her father had given her years ago. The screen had scratches. Sometimes the light flickered. But Anaya's determination did not flicker. Some nights, she fell asleep, right there on the open books, tears drying on the pages. But every morning, she woke up and tried again, because her dream was bigger than her struggle. There was one night the family will never forget. The electricity cut had continued for many hours. The house was dark. The village was silent. Raghav walked past Anaya's room and stopped. There she was, sitting on the floor, books spread before her, studying under the weak golden flame of a candle. Her shadow moved on the wall, flickering softly. Her eyes were tired, but shining with determination. Raghav watched silently. His heart broke a little more, and expanded at the same time. He walked back to his room and cried. Not because he was weak, but because he wished he could give her a better life. He wiped his tears and whispered into the darkness, "God, if she has chosen this dream, then help her. Not me. Help her." And that night, for the first time, Raghav believed that maybe, just maybe, his daughter's dream was not impossible. School had reopened after the floods. Students returned with new books, new excitement, new gossip. But Anaya walked quietly to her classroom, carrying the same old bag, the same old second-hand notebooks, but a new fire inside her. Her classmates talked about movies, weddings, new phones. Anaya listened, smiled politely, but her mind was miles away. During lunch break, most children ran outside, laughing, shouting, chasing each other in the playground. But Anaya walked to her favorite place, the old banyan tree behind the school. The ground below was uneven, and the bench was broken on one side. But it was quiet, calm, perfect for reading. She opened her worn-out science book and began to solve a chapter that most students hadn't even started. Her fingers moved slowly across the page. Her lips silently repeated each sentence. Her eyes sparkled, as though she was traveling into another world. At that moment, a soft voice came from behind. "Everyone else is playing, and you're studying." Anaya turned. Standing there was Mrs. D'Souza, her science teacher. She wore simple clothes, but her presence carried warmth that felt like sunlight after a cold night. Anaya immediately stood up. "Good afternoon, ma'am." Mrs. D'Souza looked at the open books, the underlined notes, and the small snack box that was still untouched. "You didn't eat anything." Anaya hesitated for a moment. Just a moment. But that was enough for the teacher to understand. She sat beside Anaya on the old bench. "Tell me, Anaya, why do you study during every break?" Anaya lowered her eyes. She wasn't embarrassed, just not used to talking about herself. With a small breath, she said, "Ma'am, I want to become a doctor." The teacher didn't laugh. She didn't look surprised. She didn't say, "It's too difficult." Instead, she asked gently, "Why?" Anaya looked up, her eyes shining like stars in a night sky. "Because my village needs one." There was no pride in her voice, no dramatic pause, just simple truth. Mrs. D'Souza felt something move inside her. She had met many students. Smart ones, talented ones, lazy ones, noisy ones. But this one was different. Her dream was not about herself. It was about others. And dreams like these deserve to be protected. She placed her hand lightly on Anaya's head. "You have something rare, Anaya." Anaya blinked. "What is that, ma'am?" The teacher smiled softly. "You have determination. And that is more powerful than money, talent, or luck." Anaya felt her heart warm, like someone had finally seen her real self. From that day onward, something small but life-changing began. Every evening, after school ended, Anaya stayed behind, in the empty classroom, where sunlight poured in through dusty windows. She studied with Mrs. D'Souza, not as a student, but as a fighter training for her dream. The teacher explained things slowly, drawing diagrams, telling stories of doctors, answering every question, even the ones Anaya was shy to ask. Sometimes, Anaya's stomach made a small sound. A reminder she hadn't eaten. Without saying anything, Mrs. D'Souza quietly pushed half of her own lunch toward her. At first, Anaya resisted. "Ma'am, I can't." But the teacher simply said, "Doctors need strength. Eat." And Anaya did. Not because she was hungry, but because the teacher's kindness felt like hope. Months passed. While others played, Anaya studied. While others slept early, she studied under candlelight. While others complained about homework, she solved chapters from next year's syllabus. Her notebooks became filled, not just with answers, but with dreams written in ink. When exam results finally came, the entire school gathered near the notice board. Children jumped, shouted, argued, laughed. But when the topper list was posted, the noise fell silent. Rank number 1, Anaya Raghav Patil. For a moment, Anaya simply stared at her name. Her fingers trembled. Her throat tightened. Her chest felt light, like she had wings. Her classmates looked at her in surprise. She, the quiet one. But she never even talks. She doesn't even go for tuitions. They didn't understand. Because success is loud, but hard work is silent. Mrs. D'Souza walked to her slowly, eyes shining with pride. "Well done, Anaya." Anaya didn't speak. She simply hugged her teacher. The first hug she had given anyone in years. At home that evening, Raghav held the report card in his rough hands. His eyes filled with tears. For the second time that year. But this time, they were tears of joy. He pulled Anaya close to his chest and whispered, "You made me the richest man in the world today." And Anaya closed her eyes, smiling softly. "This is just the beginning, Baba." Time moved forward, like it always does. After completing school, Anaya applied to several colleges in the nearby city. She didn't know how admission forms worked. She didn't know how to speak English fluently. She didn't know how interviews happened. But she knew how to try. So she tried. Her teacher helped her fill forms. Her father borrowed money to pay the initial fees. Her mother stitched extra clothes late into the night to manage expenses. And then, one morning, the postman arrived with a letter. A thick white envelope. Her hands trembled as she opened it. "Congratulations. You have been admitted to City Science Junior College." For a moment, the world disappeared. No sounds. No thoughts. Just a single wave of relief, joy, disbelief, and pride. All together. Her father lifted her off the ground in a tight hug. Her mother kissed her forehead again and again. It felt like a dream. But it was real. However, dreams rarely come alone. They bring challenges with them. Anaya moved to the city. The city was loud. Cars honked. People rushed. Lights flickered late into the night. Everything moved fast. Too fast. She joined a small hostel room. The room had 4 girls. 2 narrow beds. 1 ceiling fan. 0 privacy. Her bed was hard. Her pillow was thin. But she wasn't there for comfort. She was there for her dream. Her roommates talked about shopping, movies, dating, Instagram followers. Anaya listened, smiled politely. But her mind was focused on something else entirely. Every morning, she woke up before everyone. She washed her face, tied her hair simply, and walked to college with a small notebook in her hand. In classrooms, English words flew around her like fast birds. Sometimes she understood. Sometimes she didn't. When teachers spoke too quickly, she took notes anyway, hoping she would understand them later. And she did. Every night. Sitting near the hostel window, under the yellow streetlight outside, she opened her notebook and studied word by word, line by line, concept by concept. Her eyes burned, but her determination did not. Money was always tight. Sometimes, painfully tight. There were days when she couldn't afford lunch. Days when her stomach ached. Days when she drank only water. And told herself, "It's okay. I am strong. My hunger will pass. But my dream must stay." And her dream stayed. One evening, as she sat alone in the library, she overheard two students whispering. "She's from a village. And she wants to be a doctor. That's impossible. Doctors need money. Coaching. Connections." Their voices were soft. But their words were sharp. Sharp enough to cut. For a moment, Anaya's hands froze. Her chest felt tight. Her throat felt heavy. But then, she took a deep, slow breath. She closed her eyes and remembered the candlelight nights. Her father's silent tears of pride. Her mother's tired hands stitching clothes for her dream. Her teacher's warm guidance. She whispered to herself, very gently, "I didn't come this far to stop now." And she turned the page and kept studying. Because courage doesn't shout. Sometimes, courage is silent perseverance. As time passed, she entered her final year of preparation for the medical entrance exam, the test that would decide everything. This was the moment. The dream felt close, almost within reach. But life tests the strongest hearts at the hardest times. One night, she received a call from home. Her mother's voice was weak. Very weak. "Anaya. I am not feeling well." Anaya rushed home the next morning. Her mother was lying in bed. Pale, tired, breathing heavily. The local nurse said, "She needs regular treatment. It will cost money." Money they did not have. Anaya felt something inside her collapse. But she did not allow it to break. She took a deep breath and said, "It's all right, Ma. I'm here." Her days changed completely. Morning, take mother to clinic. Afternoon, help with household tasks. Evening, work part-time in a small local clinic. Night, study. Sometimes she slept only 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes not at all. Her body was exhausted. Her mind was tired. But her courage kept walking forward. One night, while studying beside her mother's bed, her mother opened her eyes slowly and said, "Anaya, if this is too much, you can stop." Anaya looked at her mother, the woman who had sacrificed everything for her. Her voice did not shake. "Ma, I will never stop. I will make this dream true. For you. For Baba. For our village. For every person who has ever suffered without help." Her mother closed her eyes again, and tears slipped down softly. Not of sadness, but of pride. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. And finally, the medical entrance exam day arrived. The sky was still dark when Anaya woke up. The village was silent. Only the sound of early morning birds filled the air. Her mother was still sleeping, breathing slow, weak, but peaceful. Anaya sat near her bed for a moment, holding her mother's hand. She whispered, "Ma, today is the day I fight for everything." She didn't speak loudly. She didn't cry. Her voice was steady, calm. Like her heart had become stronger than ever. Her father walked her to the bus stop. He didn't talk much, but his eyes said everything. Pride, worry, love, and a silent prayer. The exam center was full of students. Some were confident. Some were anxious. Some looked like they had studied under expensive coaching classes. Since childhood, Anaya quietly found her seat. She placed her transparent pouch on the desk. She placed her pen carefully. She placed her admit card. Then, she closed her eyes. And she remembered. Studying under candlelight. Sewing buttons to save money. Her mother's weak smile. Her teacher's warm encouragement. Her father's silent tears of pride. And she said, very softly, "I am ready." The question paper arrived. Students around her panicked. Some whispered, some sighed. But Anaya did not rush. She read every question slowly, carefully. Like each one was a step toward her dream. Her heart beat fast. Her hands shook sometimes. Her back ached from sleepless nights. But she did not stop. Not even once. When she walked out of the exam hall, she did not know the result. But she knew one thing. I gave everything I had. And sometimes, that is the greatest victory of all. The result day was still far away. Life continued. Anaya returned home. She took care of her mother. She worked in the clinic. She studied every day. Not because she had an exam now, but because learning was part of her soul. Her father continued farming. Even though the fields were still recovering. Her home had struggles. But now, it also had strength. The whole village began to notice. Some people said, "Maybe she will really become a doctor." Some said, "It's impossible." But Anaya had stopped hearing the world long ago. She listened only to her dream. One afternoon, while Anaya was preparing tea in the kitchen, her old phone buzzed. A message flashed. NEET result declared. Check now. Her hands froze. Her heartbeat became loud. As if the entire room could hear it. She walked to her small study table. Sat down slowly. And opened the result website. Her fingers trembled. As she typed her roll number. She clicked submit. The screen loaded. And kept loading. And kept loading. Those few seconds felt longer than all the years she had struggled. Then, the result appeared. Her eyes scanned the page once. Twice. 3 times. And then, she covered her mouth with her hands. A sound came out. Half laugh, half cry. Her body shook. Tears rushed down like a river. She was selected. She had done it. She had become someone her village had never seen before. A doctor in the making. A dream becoming real. A promise returning home as victory. Her mother walked out from the room slowly, leaning on the wall. Her voice was weak, but filled with warmth. "What happened, Anaya?" Anaya ran to her, held her tightly, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. Through tears, through shaking breaths, she whispered, "Ma, we did it." Her father came forward, eyes already wet. He simply placed his hand on her head. He didn't need words. Some emotions are too big for language. Rainbow years later, Anaya became a doctor. Not in a big, shiny hospital full of polished floors and glass walls. No. She returned to her village. She built a small clinic. White walls, a wooden desk, and a board outside that said, Dr. Anaya Raghav Patil, General Physician. The people who once doubted her now brought their children to her, with hope in their eyes. The same farmers who once said, "It's impossible," now said, "Our very own doctor." One evening, while closing the clinic, Anaya saw a small girl sitting under a streetlight, reading a book. Her back was bent like hers once had been. Her lamp was dim like hers had been. But her eyes were shining, exactly like Anaya's once did. Anaya smiled and walked to her. She placed her hand gently on the girl's head and said, "Don't stop. Some dreams look impossible until you make them possible." The girl looked up, surprised, but inspired. And in that moment, Anaya realized, dreams are not just to reach. Dreams are to pass forward. So, dear listener, never feel small because of where you come from. Never let money decide your destiny. Never let struggle stop your journey. If your heart believes, your life will change. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But one day, your story will inspire someone else, just like Anaya's.